When working with Excel, most people will take what they're given out of the box, but sometimes you may want to turn off some of the interfaces that you're not particularly interested in or don't need for this particular book. Now, some of these interface options are easy to access and others not so easy. First set of easy ones are actually on the View ribbon. If we go to the View ribbon, you'll find here Show allows us to turn off these three, potentially four options. One is grayed out, and we'll see why shortly. One option you can turn off is the headings, and you'll see then that the column headings disappear and the row numbers disappear. That doesn't stop the cell from having its correct reference. If I click here, for example, that's H13, and I can see that in the name box. So I know where I am still, I just don't have the column headings and the row headings. Now, if I turn off the formula bar as well, formula bar disappears, and then I don't really know where I am. So depending on the use of your spreadsheet, that might be quite useful to turn the formula bar off and or the column headings. Now, one thing you can't do with the column headings is have the letters on but not the numbers, or just the numbers on and not the letters. Column headings remove both, so you lose effectively the column heading and the row heading. It's one tick and they come back. It's one tick and the formula bar comes back. One quite common thing to remove is the grid lines, so that you can't see the gaps between each cell. You know there are separate cells there, and this sometimes improves the presentation of a sheet when you're starting to use background colours and borders. But again, they can be turned on very quickly. Now the ruler is grayed out because in normal view, we don't have a ruler. If we change to page layout view, we do get a ruler and we can turn that ruler off. The page layout view is not really one of my favorite views, but it's a view that allows you to see what your spreadsheet will look like on paper, but still be able to work with it. So it's a bit of a merging option between print preview and your file, because you can still work in there. So I can still put content in. I can adjust column widths, but what I can see is also how that's going to affect the page. So I've narrowed up that column and column J jumps onto this particular page. I can also add in headers very quickly without having to go into any separate dialog box. So it has its uses. And then back to normal. So these three options are accessed very quickly from here: headings, grid lines, and the formula bar. Other items that you can turn on or off are accessed through File, Options, Advanced. Scroll down until we see the section that says Display. In here you can see Show Formula Bar, so I can actually turn that on or off from in here. You can even turn off the screen tips, so that when you're typing a function, you don't get the little, let's give you a tip about what the parameters are for this function. We can turn off the horizontal scroll bar, that's little bar here, vertical scroll bar, little bar here. So those are controlled independently. The sheet tabs can be turned off. Row and column headings are controlled from here. We can show formulas in the cell instead of the result. We can show a sheet from right to left. Fairly useful if you're Arabic based. You can now go from A all the way to the left hand side and the numbers go down, and the sheet tabs start building from the right as well. So if I add a new tab here, notice how it reverts, because tab blank has been told to be right to left, but sheet 2 hasn't. I'd need to go back into the options, advanced, scroll down, show sheet right to left, because we're display options for this worksheet, or we can change that to blank, show right to left, and that will go right to left as well. Then both sheets are right to left. Back to options, to return that to left to right. It's all in the advanced. You can see we have a display section, and that controls display of a number of items, such as the formula bar and the screen tips. Then we have control display options for this workbook, and you can change that to any other open workbook. Anything you do here will only affect the current workbook. Anything you do here will affect Excel. So if I open a new file, it won't have the formula bar if I've turned it off. Anything you do here will only affect the current sheet or another sheet within your file. On in here, we can turn the row and column headers off, showing the sheet right to left instead of left to right, show page breaks, show zero in cells that have a zero value, show outline symbols if an outline is applied, show grid lines. So I turn these off on a sheet by sheet basis, and I can even change the grid line color. I could change the grid line colors to orange. That will only affect this sheet, sheet 2, which is still showing right to left, goes back to the default gray. So you've got to be a little bit careful when you're in here in the advanced that the things that you're changing, are they affecting the whole of Excel, just this workbook, or just this worksheet? So the right to left option is just the worksheet. The color of the grid lines is just the worksheet. So each sheet could have a different set of colored grid lines. So that's just customizing interface options. The beauty of Excel is that it's customized completely to you and you are in charge of that interface.